Steelers Nation, what is going on? Thank you guys for tuning in for yet another edition of the Steelers Culture Podcast, where we break down Pittsburgh Steelers football. This episode is powered by our great friends over at BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And today we're here to talk about the Steelers' current playoff scenarios and where they lie. Currently, and right now, they should be the number 3 seed, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are not. As of right now, they are not.
No, they're not. And believe me, there is still an impossible chance, but there is a chance that the Steelers could
small glimmer.
They could still be the 3rd seed. And if they were to be the 3rd seed, they would face the Chargers. But in order for that to happen, they need to win versus Cincy, and they would need the Ravens to lose to the Browns of all teams, which I don't want to rule out completely, but let's be honest.
They have Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback, and
the Ravens aren't sitting their starters.
No, they're not. They still have the division to fight for the number 3 seed to fight for. So do the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I mean, the Ravens have all the momentum in the world right now, while the Steelers, they're still trying to claim back some momentum after losing 3 straight.
Yeah, they were on top of the AFC North ladder for about 6-7 weeks.
Just 2 weeks ago.
Just 2 weeks ago,
they were 10-3. Now we are sitting at 10-6, and here we are talking about where the Steelers could be come playoff time, come January football.
Yeah, we're going to discuss all the scenarios and what will need to happen and who they could face depending on what seed and what type of scenario. But as we stand, they can only get either the 3rd seed, the 5th seed, or the 6th seed. There is no 7th seed, so there is no going to Buffalo unless Buffalo pulls off a complete collapse. We'll discuss that as well. But thank you guys for joining us, for tuning in for this video, man. Huge shout out to BetUS Sportsbook and Casino for sponsoring with us on this video. As it is Sunday, it is NFL Sunday, man. This Week 17's had a slate of football games all week. We had Christmas, which I don't want to talk about. We had Thursday. We had 3 games yesterday, 3 exciting games, including the Bengals and the Broncos.
The most exciting game of the 3.
And today, we got all games for Sunday, man. We got a whole slate of football games, plus Monday night to come. BetUS has all the money lines, the point spreads, the totals, everything you guys would need for your betting duties. If you guys want to look for a new sportsbook, BetUS has you covered. They even have a prop builder. If you guys want to use that in regards to touchdowns or over-unders in terms of player stats, any and all that good stuff. But you see, we got the Colts and Giants. Joe Flacco is starting. The Giants aren't winning. No, the Giants aren't winning.
No, and the Colts, I mean, they're still vying for a playoff spot now with Joe Flacco as quarterback for at least this week.
Right. Falcons and Commanders, that's Sunday night. That should be very good. 2 rookie quarterbacks. I'm still going to go with the Commanders, though. Lord knows I need Jaden Daniels to go off. Las Vegas, we got the Raiders versus the Saints. I'm not even going to put anything on that because who cares? Titans and Jags, same thing. Dude, they don't even have the lines up. They must be editing right now. That's how much no one cares about that game. Look at that.
It's a fight for integrity.
It is. We got the Jets and Bills. Bills are going to completely lock that down. We got the Panthers and the Bucks. I'm going to go bold here. I'm going to go with the Panthers with the upset.
Upset here.
Yes, my upset of the week, man. So if you guys want to tail this, we'll make that into a parlay. You see the odds there. So we're going to put like 5 on that. We could win 50. I'm going to place this. If you guys want to tail this, feel free to do so at BetUS. They have a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% on your next 2 deposits when you use the promo code YouTube150 when signing up at BetUS.com today. Take advantage of all those great perks from our great friends over at BetUS. Huge shout out to them for sponsoring with us on this video. Just please gamble responsibly for this Week 17 Sunday, where it is stress-free for us, Steelers Nation. Stress-free. We have nothing to worry about. Everything that needed to happen, everything that needed to go down has gone down the past couple of days. And all we got to worry about today is just relaxing, not worrying about anything. All the worry goes to next week for Week 18, the final week of the regular season, where the Steelers, they have about 4 or 5 scenarios where they could lie, where they could see a certain seed in the AFC playoff picture for the wild card. It's as simple as this. If the Steelers win, they lock down the 5th seed no matter what else happens. They can at least lock the 5th seed with a win. Now, like we stated earlier, if the Ravens somehow lose to the Browns, they would lock down the AFC North division with the 3rd seed, and they would face the Los Angeles Chargers. So they would host a playoff game. They would host the LA Chargers if the Steelers win versus Cincy next week and the Ravens lose versus the Browns. That's asking for a lot. I'm not going to roll it out completely, but I just don't see the Ravens losing to the Browns. I know it already happened, but do you see the Browns sweeping the Ravens?
No, I don't, especially with their quarterback situation currently.
I don't want to rule it out. I just don't think it's very likely. If the Steelers win, but the Ravens still win, they still get the 5th seed because they would have a better record than LA, who is now the 6th seed right now, they would still have a better record than LA. Thus, they would be the 5th seed versus Houston, who is the 4th seed and the AFC South champions.
Right.
If the Steelers lose versus Cincy, which is very likely because Cincy's still fighting for a playoff spot, their playoff picture, their playoff hopes are still very much alive. If the Steelers lose versus Cincy and the Chargers lose somehow to the Raiders, the Steelers still lock down the 5th seed because, again, they would have I think the Chargers and Steelers would have the same record, but the Steelers already beat the Chargers earlier on in the season, so they would have that tiebreaker over the Chargers. So if the Steelers lose and the Chargers lose next week, they still get the 5th seed versus Houston as the 4th seed, right? Now, if the Steelers lose versus Cincy and the Chargers beat the Raiders, which is probably my most likely outcome, they would be the 6th seed facing Baltimore, the AFC North champions. So there would be a 3rd Steelers versus Ravens game this season if the Steelers lose and the Chargers win next week, which, again, is probably my most likely option. But all the Steelers got to worry about next week, all they have to do is win and beat Cincy, which would end Cincy's playoff hopes, but it would ensure that the Steelers at least lock down the 5th seed. They can't go any lower than the 5th seed if they win. But the problem is they have to win. And the Bengals, the Steelers already beat them. They could sweep them, but the Bengals are playing with everything on the line.
Everything. I mean, like, ever since they last lost to Pittsburgh in that shootout, the Bengals have won every single game. They've won 4 straight.
And Burrow has been on an absolute run.
So has Jamar Chase, so has T. Higgins, so has that Bengals team overall. Like, they are just fighting for their life, essentially, fighting for their season, which just makes next week's matchup even more difficult, even more tougher. And looking at where the Steelers lie right now, losing 3 straight in devastating fashion against teams like that and offenses like that, now they got to go up against Cincinnati, though a division rival, and they did beat them earlier this year. Looking at the current state of both teams, I mean, it doesn't look too stellar for the Steelers right now.
Right. Although the Steelers will be hosting that. That will be the home final for the season, unless, of course, they win the division. But that's the home finale for the season for the Steelers. So, with that being said, they have that home field advantage, but I feel like the Bengals have a lot of momentum on their side right now. They're still going to need some extra help, but all that matters for next week, for Week 18, no matter if it's going to be played on Saturday or Sunday, wherever. And honestly, the NFL might make it Sunday night because the Bengals, their playoff hopes are still alive. The Steelers, depending on the victory or loss, that's going to determine their seeding. There's going to be a lot of playoff implications on that game. I could very well see the NFL putting that game in primetime.
I would not be surprised. I mean, like, who wouldn't want to see Steelers versus Bengals Sunday Night Football?
It wouldn't be the first time, especially the end of the season, man. But all they got to do, all they got to worry about next week is beating the Bengals. If they do that, they can't get lower than the 5th. If they do lose, then the Chargers have a great chance of beating the Raiders, and the Chargers would lock down the 5th seed, while the Steelers would go all the way down to the 6th and having a rematch versus Baltimore. Now, if we look at all of these options, we got potentially the Chargers if the Steelers win the division. We have the 5th seed versus Houston in 2 scenarios. And we got the Steelers as the 6th seed facing Baltimore, in Baltimore. Which option, which matchup would you most favor for the Steelers?
Most favor? As of right now, looking at the 3 teams, I would probably most favor the Houston Texans.
I think a lot of people would agree because Houston isn't looking too hot right now. Stroud isn't having the best season. He's turning the ball over. His line sucks. He's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. They have almost no receivers now with Nico with Nico being the only guy there, and Tank Dell and Diggs out for the season, unfortunately. You know, I mean, they're just not looking too hot right now. They have a bunch of injuries all over the place. But I will say, against Houston, it still worries me because the Steelers fell for the same thing with Houston last year when they were a lot younger, a little more inexperienced. I could very well still see Mike Tomlin and company getting out coached by Bobby Slowick and DeMeco Ryans all over again. It wouldn't be the first time. And especially in a playoff game where they would go into Houston, it's going to be a tough, and any playoff game is going to be a tough matchup. But even though Houston looks like the most easy option, and I'm pretty sure a lot of AFC teams are battling to try to go into Houston if they're going to be a part of the wild card. But I still don't want to roll out Houston. I don't. Especially when it comes to the Steelers and what they've done in the playoffs the recent number of years and how they haven't won a playoff game since 2016 and all that. You know, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
So I don't want to roll out Houston. Against Baltimore, listen, I always favor the Steelers in the AFC North matchup. They always go up against them tough. They always play them tough. It's mostly close. I know the last time we faced Baltimore, it wasn't close, but I feel like this time around, the Steelers are going to come back with a lot more energy. And frankly, against Baltimore, I'm always going to favor the Steelers because that's just the nature of the matchup. That's just the nature of the rivalry. So, although Houston looks like the most likely matchup and probably the easiest matchup, I don't hate the idea of going into Baltimore. Now, it is in Baltimore, and Baltimore in the playoffs the past number of years has kind of been strong. They went to the championship game last year. They haven't gone anywhere past that since Lamar was drafted, since Harbaugh and Lamar have been a tandem. And against those guys in the playoffs, you probably don't want to go up against them. But I feel like if there's a team to battle against Baltimore, it's always going to be the Steelers, no matter what shape, no matter what state they're in. I still favor the Steelers against Baltimore if they somehow, unfortunately, go all the way down to the 6th seed.
Yeah.
Now, if somehow, some way, we have to face LA, the Chargers, the Steelers already beat the Chargers earlier on in the season, but the Chargers are a lot different this time around. McConkey is a stud. Herbert's really finding a good connection with him and Quentin Johnston.
They just got J.K. Dobbins back in the running game.
I mean, their defense is playing really good so far. So,
And you've seen what Harbaugh has done in his first year as Chargers head coach. I mean, just getting him into the postseason just like that his first year. I mean, it's pretty remarkable with the talent that, he's been able to bring in and coach and just, what he's got down the line for the Chargers in the future. But
absolutely.
Chargers, man, I mean, they're pretty hot right now.
So, it's either going to be the Chargers, Texans, or Ravens. There's no 7th seed. There is no Buffalo. Unless, now this is
There is a but.
This is incredibly unlikely, but I have to throw it out in the atmosphere. There is a chance that the Steelers could still face Buffalo, and I think all of us would hope that this doesn't happen. The way for that to happen is Buffalo would have to lose out versus the Jets and versus the Patriots.
I know. It sounds very unlikely,
But if the Buffalo Bills were to lose out to their 2 divisional rivals in the next 2 weeks, and the Ravens were to win next week versus the Browns, that would put the Ravens as the number 2 seed. That would put the Bills as the number 3 seed. And if the Steelers lose versus the Bengals, that would put the Steelers at the 6th seed, meaning we would go all the way back to Buffalo for a 2nd straight year.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us want that.
No, I'm a hard pass. I don't think it's going to happen. That's incredibly unlikely, but we got to throw it out there. But the odds are no Buffalo. So we're looking at either the Ravens, the Texans, or the Chargers.
But I think regardless, despite who's the most vulnerable between the teams and whatnot, it's still going to be a tough and competitive matchup when it comes to the Steelers, especially when you look at their recent playoff trend and their playoff performances at that. Despite, who could be the most vulnerable or the least
threatening
or aggressive at that, I mean, it's up to the Steelers on, having to go out there and perform and just play playoff football.
Absolutely. But recently, they haven't played playoff football.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. And right now, the way that they stand right now, currently, it doesn't look too great for them.
No.
They look like the least threatening AFC playoff team right now.
Arguably, I wouldn't disagree, but, there are some other teams. The Chargers, they don't look too threatening. But with John Harbaugh leading the way, Jim Harbaugh leading the way.
Yeah, I know.
I always get them mixed up. Jim Harbaugh leading the way. He's a winning coach. He knows how to win in the NFL playoffs. He's done it many times before with the Niners and them 10 years ago. But seeing what he's done, any of these matchups, I don't want to rule out the competition. I don't want to rule out any favor that the Steelers might have ahead of them. Frankly, if you look at any of these matchups compared to the Steelers, I don't know if anyone really looks at the Steelers as the favorable matchup. So either of these games is going to be tough, but what's most important right now is the Steelers got to win next week. They got to beat Cincy, they got to end their season, and they got to lock down at least the 5th seed because that would give them Houston, which is probably the most easiest matchup, but again, don't roll out Houston because the Steelers fell for that last year.
They did, and we all know what happened.
I don't think it's going to be that bad, and hopefully it's the complete opposite, but still don't want to roll anything out.
No.
It's the playoffs, anything can happen.
No.
But what matters the most is the Steelers got to win next week versus Cincy.
No, they gotta go against Cincinnati and handle business. Arguably, they already should have against at least Baltimore, where they would have clinched the AFC North division, but they failed to do that. They failed to handle business just 2 weeks ago. But
yeah, because if they would have won the division, they would be facing LA right now. And again, there's still a chance for that, but now it's a lot harder than we could ever ask for.
Yeah, but based off the circumstances of where the Steelers now have themselves in, all they have to worry about for this week is just beat Cincinnati. Just handle business, do what you got to do, and just, whatever falls into your lap, just prepare for it for January football.
Well, they got 10, 11 days to rest and prepare. So they got plenty of time to clean up and make up for all the mistakes and try to get back in the win column and get a strong victory right before the playoffs.
Yeah, heal up, get back in the film room, just work on the communication issues that, has just been all over social media about the Steelers defense and whatnot. Just worry about your stuff, just fix your issues, and just handle business.
They got time. They're running out of time, but they got a little bit of time after playing 3 games in 10 days and losing all of them, unfortunately. but they got some time to work on it, and a strong victory versus Cincy would give them just a little bit of confidence, a little bit of momentum heading into the playoffs. So that's what's most important. And you can't risk falling any lower, even though it could be against Baltimore. You still don't want to fall as low as possible in the seeding column. Got to get a win next week. That's what's most important. But to recap, guys, a Steelers loss to the Bengals and the Chargers win versus the Raiders would make the Steelers a 6th seed facing Baltimore. A Steelers loss plus a Chargers loss next week would make them the 5th seed versus Houston. A Steelers win and a Ravens win would still make them the 5th seed versus Houston. A Steelers win and a Ravens loss would make them the 3rd seed versus LA, AFC North champions. All that is very possible. But either the Chargers, Texans, or Ravens. Let us know your guys' thoughts. Who would you guys rather face? What do you guys think is the most likely scenario? Let us know down in the comments. Appreciate you guys for watching, man. Enjoy the NFL games this Sunday. Again, huge shout out to BetUS for sponsoring with us on this video. Take advantage of that 150% of sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% on your next 2 deposits when you use the promo code YouTube150 when signing up at BetUS.com today. Take advantage of all those great perks. Enjoy the Week 17 Sunday. Stress-free, Steelers Nation. And all the stress is going to go right into Week 18, where that will really tell the tale for where the Steelers will lie for the playoffs, for the wild card. We'll see what happens. But with that being said, see you guys later this week for more content for the Steelers versus Bengals preview, and maybe even the Steelers versus Bengals reaction stream. I don't know. It depends when they're going to do the scheduling for that. Time will tell. But see you guys in the next one. Here we go, Steelers Nation.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!